Good evening and a warm welcome to this webinar today, which is on a very interesting topic called digital literacy. Now, just to understand the objective of this webinar, we will try and unlock the potential of technology and AI, what role it is actually playing in terms of empowering the future of early job seekers. Now, even before we get into the depth of the topic, let's understand what this terminology actually means. What is digital literacy? Though we hear so many things in our country, we are talking digital first, we are saying digital India, so many things that is getting digitized in the entire country. We see so many industries that are getting tech enabled. For example, you have food tech, you have edu tech, you have fintech, you have insurtech, you have any number of businesses and industries that are getting tech enabled. But for individual professionals or even for those early job seeking aspirants, what does basically digital literacy mean? Let's understand the scope of this terminology. Now, we all use mobile apps. We all use our phone. Most of us, I think, if you go back and use that app to check the screen time, we all would be spending anywhere around 10 to 12 hours every day on our mobile phone, isn't it? Is that not true for all of us? Now, that being said, does that really equate to digital literacy? Now, when we say you're using your phone, you're surfing through social media, you are using so many different kind of apps for your day-to-day transactions and day-to-day living. Now, let's look at the context of digital literacy in the field of, people who are launching their professional career. So, in this topic, in this webinar, we want to specifically cover what does digital skill mean for somebody who's looking at a professional opportunity for a job, for a career. So, here's where we'll just try and delve deeper into this topic. Now, in this context, for early job seekers or professionals, the use of technology is just a part of life. Now, it is the ability to use the technology in a very effective manner. That is the key, right? So, how effectively are you able to use technology? And more importantly, how responsibly? So it is, you may say that I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm, watching YouTube videos which are very, very useful to me. Yes, all that is also part of being digitally oriented, right? But then how effectively can we put the technology to use to create impact, to create results, to create, or rather achieve goals when you get into a professional job. This is the whole difference that we're going to look at in today's webinar. Now, when you say digital skills, what does it mean? Like I said, you may be very mobile savvy, you may be very, IT savvy, but then we're talking about information. Now, when you say that you have potentially very high digital skills that are needed, that are most in demand in the professional industry, then you should be able to access information online in a very seamless manner. So the skills that are needed to be digitally literate is accessing information online, right? You know the websites which are very key. You know the websites which are very important to the industry which you're focusing. You know what to serve. You know who are the people to follow. You really know how to access useful information online. This is what is the digital skill all about. And to evaluate the credibility, so right now, all of us we go through some apps, we make use of apps, but the first thing we see is what is the credit rating of that app? 4 stars, 3 stars, 5 stars. It's a very important criteria. Now, right now, if you're using any information that is there on the important websites, it's very important to check the credibility of the digital source. This is one of the skills that is very much needed in the professional world. And then comes communicating effectively. So how well are we equipped with our reading skills, writing skills, presentation skills, right? Our creative skills in terms of being able to communicate in the most effective manner, in a very differentiated manner. Today, in this whole noise of, I would say, so much noise with the kind of, explosion of the internet, if we don't differentiate ourselves as to how effectively we communicate, then we lose our competitive edge. So, how are we able to use the digital platforms? One example is LinkedIn. How active are we? How good is our a LinkedIn SSI score? There's something called a social security index score. So, how effective are you in terms of contributing information on that platform, or even collaborating with the right kind of people, or even following some important pages and being able to respond and ask relevant questions? So, communicating effectively is a very important skill in the professional world. And most important is to really understand how important today the world has become a tech driven world. So, digital literacy is something that we cannot afford to miss out on. Now we've seen what is digital literacy. Let's look at what are the components. We'll further break it down to see how we need to be, acquiring these skills. First is the technical skills. Like I said, you need to understand how to use digital devices and apps. So there are any number of tutorial videos on the YouTube or on Insta. If let's say you want to look at how to use Canva in the most effective manner, you can go to YouTube, you can download a tutorial video, you can check how it is used. So the very important thing is there may be many, many tools that are available. There are many, many applications that are available. For example, Chrome Web Store. Now, this is a very interesting website where there are so many interesting plugins that you can make use of. So right now, but how do you use it? So now it's very important to have that understanding. So this is what I mean by saying what are those technically oriented skills that you need to develop to be able to understand how to make use of digital devices and apps. Then comes your information literacy. Like I already said, are you able to pull information that is useful, that is knowledgeable, that is resourceful, that can help you create some impact in your work? So evaluating and interpreting online content is a very important skill, right? How deep? Now right now we have chat gpt. It's very easy to go to chat gpt, put any question, it comes up with an answer. But to put the right question there, like we say prompts, now to put the right prompt is an essential skill for you to pull the right information out. So, how are you able to evaluate, interpret, and arrive at some inferences using the overwhelming content that we have on the internet? This is information literacy. Then comes communication, like I already mentioned. Now, it's very important that we engage in every social platform that we are enrolled into. It is not like we go there and hibernate. It's not like I've opened an account and I'll stay here. No. How much are you able to contribute to that? How many connections and collaborations are you making on that? For example, X, which is the erstwhile Twitter. Now, you may be doing some, maybe some, you're involved with some social projects, or you're, involved with some NGO where you're doing some, common society work. Now, how many times do you go back and even share what you're doing? How many times do you go back and tag the right people and get visible and get noticed on these platforms? It's very, very important to engage effectively on digital platforms. And this is something which is a unique skill that you need to develop. Then, of course, comes your cybersecurity awareness. Now, one thing is when you talk about digital, it's a double-edged advantage. Definitely, it helps you. It's a huge, immensely beneficial business tool, but at the same time, it has its own personal, if I can say, risks that are involved. So you should be aware of the basic cybersecurity measures that you need to take to safeguard your personal data and your privacy. So these are the components of digital literacy. Now let's move on to see, because you are, or you're mostly early job seekers. I want you to understand the landscape or the skills that are needed for being digitally literate, especially from a workplace point of view, in a professional job point of view. Now, what does really, digital literacy mean in a workplace? It is very essential. It is very much needed to improve productivity. Right? So all the people, all the professionals, or the workforce, they have to build on their productivity only by being digitally literate today. If you, this is one of the reasons we observe that the older generation struggles. The senior or super senior people have a certain, what is a phobia in terms of digital. They're not able to understand the apps as quickly as much as the young aspirants or the youth are able to do. But that being said, to be most productive in your job or in the workplace, digital literacy is a must and must, right? So some of the examples that we can look at, what is it? Like, are you able to send out emails on your own? Are you able to draft your emails? Are you able to come up with ideas as to how do you send multiple emails? Because today, if you're talking about sales, if you're talking about customer engagement, gone are the days when you used to have one-on-one conversations. Right now, it is one-to-many conversation. So how equipped are you in terms of your email etiquettes, in terms of your email knowledge? And if you walk into a workplace, there is every need that you need to connect with people virtually, because the branches are spread out. Your branch is somewhere, your regional office is somewhere, your head office is somewhere. So for all the time, you may have to virtually connect either through video conferencing or through a Google Meet or through a Zoom Meet. How exposed are you to these platforms, and how easily you can adapt to the situation is a very, very important skill. Then comes project management. In case have the skill of managing projects and ensuring timely completion of projects by using some of the relevant software, there is a big plus. You will straight away be holding the most in-demand skill that is needed in the workplace environment. Of course, data analytics is a huge area. Right now, we're seeing such new designations pop up even in the traditional industries, like in banking or insurance or manufacturing sector. You definitely have a market data analyst, or you have a sales data analyst, or you may have your own product data analyst. There's so many analysis that needs to be put together, and for which you cannot but be digitally illiterate. There is a very important role for the digital literacy in this area of data analytics. So it's very important that you upskill yourself in these tools and enhance your business efficiency or your professional skill set. Now, like I said, one of the important things to pay attention to will also be the cybersecurity. Whenever you talk about digital literacy, cybersecurity is equally important. So, how much do you understand phishing? How much do you understand the threats of malware and online scams? Very, very important, because you will be working in a workplace where you will be working with sensitive data. Maybe the data relates to your customers or to your internal company. There may be proprietary rights, there may be data, there may be some softwares that you're dealing with which are very internal and privy to the company. So it's very important that we don't expose these in a way that becomes very risky for the company or the employer. So understanding these threats, very important as a part of digital literacy. And like we all know, the basic stuff is setting strong passwords and not ignoring the two-factor authentication. Most of the times we just say, let's, give up this, and then we skip the process of two-factor authentication. But given the world that we are in, though digitally we need to be empowered, we need to be enabled, it's very important that we set these strong firewalls in terms of passwords and multi-factor authentications. Now, also because there are privacy laws that are emerging in the country, there is a data protection bill that has been passed by the government. It's important that we know the basic aspects of these bills and laws so that it helps in terms of cybersecurity and you become furthermore digitally literate. So right now, before we conclude and you kind of get a gist of what are the skills that you need to gain, here's where what is the role of digital literacy today. So we may say it's so much overwhelming that there's so much information on the internet, or even in terms of the health exposures that we have because of the huge amount of screen time. Still, the role and importance of digital literacy cannot be ignored. For example, if you take a few case studies, if you envision a rural student, somebody who's studying in one of the nook and corner of the country, today he is able to gain access to global education institutions. Right? He's able to do an elective course or an online course very easily. Somebody sitting in a remote town, like let's say in a Shimoga, or in, let's say, Neyveli, or in, let's say, Faridabad or Ghaziabad, somebody in a very, very rural area also gets equal opportunity to access some of the global education programs just by launching himself on the online platform. Isn't that a huge empowerment for the youth? So it's very important that we understand the role and importance of digital literacy. Take the case of a small business owner, let's say a small provision store owner. Now, today, he can easily open up an Instagram page and expand his business. It's not necessary that he has to wait for people to walk into his shop. Isn't that a huge empowerment? Isn't that not such an important role that digital literacy is playing in terms of not only improving the income of that business owner, but also expanding his business, ensuring more people he can employ and contribute to the national GDP. So right now, it's very important to see the role of digital innovations. The third case study, if you were to see cybersecurity awareness. Now, if you are simply aware of the basic, threats that are involved in terms of being, digitally savvy, you could prevent a huge phishing scam in a workplace just by knowing how sensitive is this data. How am I going to avoid a phishing scam? What does phishing mean? Somebody sending you a wrongful email with a wrong attachment which has a certain virus, or they can simply grab your personal data by sending you some fictitious emails, or they can get you to respond to some fictitious emails and kind of corrupt your entire gadget. So all these threats also can be avoided if you're simply digitally literate. So just to conclude this short webinar that we had today, digital literacy is not just a skill, but right now it's a necessity in the modern professional world. It empowers individuals, it drives innovation, and it bridges the gap between a talented professional and a normal professional. So those of you who are young aspirants, career seekers, job seekers, who have this dream of working for large corporate houses, very, very important to understand the real scope of digital literacy. Enroll yourself to a few programs and online training workshops and gain the most in demand digital skills that are needed. So here's where we would like to stop and close this webinar today. We encourage you to look at our website, which is www.iracoaching.com. We do have many, many workshops that are offered. You can look up the topics, and whichever you feel is relevant for you, please make use of them. And thank you so much for signing in today. And we'll see you in the next. Thank you. And I'd like to sign off here. Thank you very much.